Welcome back to our third and our final lesson for this week, and also the final lesson for the introduction or reintroduction back into the dimensions of health and well-being. This has been a relatively easy and cruisy week, giving you a couple of little mini tasks to complete, definitely not 75 minutes worth of work in each lesson. And the whole goal for the entire week, the success criteria that I'm going by, is that I could ask anyone in this class about the dimensions of health and well-being and how comfortable you are with recognizing the 5 dimensions of health and well-being and being able to find them in case studies, because I know that I mentioned over Zoom the other day, and I know that I've also mentioned in previous lessons, case studies are huge in health. Health and well-being is all about looking at graphs, looking at data, and looking at individual people and situations and being able to relate good and poor health and reasons why good and poor health are evident in those case studies. Within today's lesson, what I'd like you to do is to go obviously into the resources section, and we went through term 3 week 1, the PowerPoint, the glossary we've been continuing to add to, and these first two health and well-beings in the previous lessons. Today is all about this final document, and then it's about a documentary or a couple of clips about a very famous person within Australia. So the health and well-being case studies.doc, this is the one that we're going to work through momentarily, and then we're going to move on to, as I said, the case studies. Today's videos that you're going to see is about a famous athlete, an Australian famous athlete named Churia Pitt. And if any of you have not seen Churia Pitt before, 65% of her body is covered in scars from third-degree burns. So I know that it might be a little bit confronting when you first see her, for those people who haven't spent time looking at her before. And quite a lot of the documentaries that you're going to see are her talking about her experiences, talking about her health, her well-being, and her life. And then when we get to the end of watching all of that, it's your job. It's your job as a health student who has knowledge of the 5 dimensions of health and well-being to be able to pick apart her situation, her scenario, and really bring to life what the dimensions look like. So I bring you back now to the PowerPoint that we've been working through, and this was the slide where we finished off with last lesson. So now we're on to Churia Pitt. Before we actually get there though, there's one last thing that I'm going to ask you to do, which is this final Word document that I alluded to before on Compass Resources. Now there's 4 case studies here, and you should be able to do this relatively simple and quickly now, because it's a less guided method that we've been going through in the last lesson yesterday. So you're going to read case study 1 about John, 75 years old, in the retirement village, etc. And then you're going to scroll down here to case study 1, which is all about John and physical health and well-being. I want you in this section here to tell me all about John's physical health and well-being. Social health and well-being, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And if there's something that crosses over into multiple areas, once you've written it once, just highlight it and copy and paste it across into whichever other category it is. I want to bring attention to emotional and mental and how we've mentioned the difference between the two of those. And I'd really like for, if there is something doubled up between emotional and mental, for you to actually tell me why you believe it goes into both. But for those 4 case studies, that shouldn't take you too long to work through. Once you finish those case studies, these 3 links here, which are also found on Compass lesson plans page, are going to take you to a series of YouTubes. The first one's that 9-minute one, which is a 60 minutes documentary, which is a lot about Turia and her partner talking through how she feels. The next one here is a longer one, and it's actually Turia talking through a TED talk that she gave at Macquarie University. This one here is really, really interesting, as it actually talks you through how she felt when she was lying in the hospital bed quite a lot of the time. And if you listen to the words that she talks about in some of these sections here, it's really integral in helping you with your final task. The final one's a bit of a feel-good story here, which is about a company that have recruited her to star in their new campaign. It's a pretty quick little video to watch, and it's actually going to help you out a little bit just in terms of understanding where she's at with her life now. So, those three videos are actually going to take up the majority of this lesson to watch. And your job is simply to write a short paragraph about her experiences within each of the health and well-being dimensions and how the experience has impacted her overall health and well-being. So, today's task, a little bit confronting, but it's also about starting to recognize real life five dimension health and well-being breakdowns. I leave this task with you. Finish the Microsoft Word 4 case studies and watch the Churia Pit documentaries and try and show me that by the end of this week, everything you've uploaded into term 3, week 1 is all the knowledge that you have and the comfort levels that you are at with your dimensions of health and well-being. Next week, we start some brand new work. I am going to be able to take more time explaining things to you rather than asking you to remember from the past. And then we're going to continue on. And remember that our outcome task is coming up very soon. So please be ready for that. Excuse me. Please be ready for that. And if you have any questions, send me an email as per usual. I'll see you soon.